Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into today's story, one of Whisper's subtle glances and an awkward exchange that left ripples to the world's most scrutinized family, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what we're about to unravel, because sometimes the smallest gestures reveal the deepest truths. Now, picture this. It's June 2018. The streets of London are alive with celebration. Carriages glide past cheering crowds. Crimson uniforms gleam under the summer sun, and the royal family, draped in elegance, rides out for Trooping the Color, the annual display of military pageantry in honor of the monarch. The air is thick with the traditions of centuries, yet behind the polished smiles and waving hands, a moment unfolds that, while seemingly trivial, will become a symbol of deeper fractures within the House of Windsor. The newlywed Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, still glowing from her fairy tale wedding just weeks earlier, finds herself in need of something simple, something utterly mundane. Lip gloss. It is a kind of request anyone might whisper to a friend in a casual setting. But this is not an ordinary gathering, and these are not ordinary women. Meghan turns to her sister-in-law, Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, whose composure has long been the very image of royal restraint. "Could I borrow some?" Meghan asks. A small request, yet it hovers in the air like a test neither woman expected. Prince Harry, in his memoir Spare, recalls what happened next. Kate pauses. Her expression stiffens. Her hand hesitates before diving reluctantly into her handbag. She produces a small tube of lip gloss, but the gesture carries no warmth. Meghan accepts it, squeezes a little onto her finger, and dabs it onto her lips. A moment so ordinary, yet Kate grimaces, her discomfort plain. The exchange lasts mere seconds, but for Harry, it was unforgettable. A clash of styles, he calls it. Something they should have laughed about afterward. Yet, instead of fading into nothingness, it lingers like a faint bruise on the skin of their relationship. But why? Why should lip gloss matter in the gilded halls of monarchy? Why did a gesture so small leave behind a shadow that Harry still felt compelled to immortalize years later? Perhaps the answer lies in the power of symbols. In ordinary families, a sister-in-law's hesitation might pass unnoticed, but within the royal family, every glance, every sigh, every purse of the lips is magnified beneath the lenses of millions. Lip gloss in this story is no longer lip gloss. It is cultural difference. It is personal boundary. It is an unspoken reminder that Meghan, the Californian actress who entered Britain's most ancient institution, would never quite fit the mold. Harry himself frames it that way. He doesn't tell it as a throwaway story, but as a parable of sorts. Meghan's request was American, casual, intimate. Kate's reaction was British, reserved, perhaps even guarded. Two women brought together by marriage, yet worlds apart in background and expectation. But imagine for a moment being in Meghan's shoes, a newcomer in the most famous family on earth, her every step judged, her every choice dissected. In that moment, her request was not only about lip gloss, it was about seeking a small connection, a fleeting moment of sisterhood. And yet, instead of being met with warmth, she was met with hesitation, a grimace, a subtle but undeniable barrier. And from Kate's perspective, imagine a woman who has spent over a decade sculpting her life to meet the unyielding expectations of royalty. Every gesture rehearsed, every smile calculated. Now standing beside her is a woman who approaches with spontaneity, with informality, with a cultural language foreign to the stiff upper lip of palace life. What if, for Kate, the lip gloss request wasn't rudeness, but intrusion, an invasion of the boundaries she had learned to protect so fiercely? And so a moment is born, small, almost laughable, but in the telling, it becomes much more, a crack in the mirror of unity, a glimpse into the deep fissures that would, in time, widen into an unbridgeable chasm. Harry's decision to share this anecdote in Spare is not incidental. It is intentional. He selects it because to him, it symbolizes the misunderstandings that grew like ivy along the palace walls, entangling his wife and his family in quiet but suffocating tension. He wants the world to know that the divisions were not born of grand betrayals alone, but of countless small, awkward moments that carried weight precisely because they revealed something deeper. And here's the haunting question. If lip gloss could spark unease, what happened when the stakes were higher? When the conversations turned from borrowed cosmetics to borrowed traditions, borrowed roles, borrowed futures, the lip gloss story becomes, then, a foreshadowing of what was to come. Within 2 short years, Harry and Meghan would step back from royal duties, their departure shaking the monarchy to its core. Their interviews would lay bare accusations of coldness, of prejudice, of an institution unwilling to bend. The lip gloss, in hindsight, feels like a metaphor. The reluctance to share, the grimace at intimacy, the subtle reminder that Meghan was, and perhaps always would be, an outsider. And yet, there's another layer. Observers of royal life note that Harry's framing reveals his own sensitivity, his tendency to read into gestures more deeply than they might warrant. Was Kate truly expressing disdain? Or was it a fleeting discomfort, amplified in Harry's memory because he so desperately wanted harmony between his wife and his family? In telling the story, Harry is not only exposing Kate's hesitation. He is exposing his own longing for acceptance, for warmth, for a closeness that never quite materialized. This is what makes the anecdote so gripping. It is not simply a clash of personalities. It is a story of 2 worlds colliding, the American world of informality and openness, and the British royal world of restraint and hierarchy. Lip gloss became the battlefield for those unspoken differences. And in the grander arc of history, this moment is not trivial. Think of it. Centuries of monarchy balanced on traditions so fragile that even a request for lip gloss can feel like a violation. It raises a question: how sustainable is such an institution in the modern world, where openness, diversity, and cultural blending are celebrated? Can a family built on silence and symbolism survive in an age where authenticity is demanded and every small grimace becomes a headline? As we linger on this story, we must also remember where it leads. Harry and Meghan, disillusioned, cross the Atlantic to begin anew in California. They traded tiaras and regalia for Hollywood deals and humanitarian projects. They raised Archie and welcomed Lilibet under the Californian sun, far from the shadow of Buckingham Palace. Yet, the stories from their royal years continue to follow them, haunting both their image and the monarchy they left behind. And the lip gloss? That tiny, sticky detail remains lodged in the public imagination, a reminder that sometimes the most revealing conflicts are not fought in boardrooms or battlefields, but in whispered requests, in the space between 2 women sharing. Yet not truly sharing, a simple tube of gloss. But here's where the tension deepens. If this is how small moments unfolded, what are the larger ones? What are the late-night discussions of formal dinners, the decisions made behind velvet curtains? What if every exchange carried with it the weight of centuries, the pressure of history, the scrutiny of 1,000 watching eyes? The lip gloss anecdote, dear viewers, is not merely a story. It is a key that unlocks how personal discomfort can spill into public drama, how misunderstandings can echo across generations, how something so small can become a symbol for everything that is broken. And as Harry tells it, we are invited not just to observe, but to ask ourselves, how much of history is shaped by the smallest of gestures? And so, the question lingers in the air like an unfinished sentence. If lip gloss could carry this much weight, what about the moments we were never allowed to see? What about the encounters that never made it to the balcony, the carriage rides, or the glossy photographs framed for the world? What about the countless private silences, where words were swallowed rather than spoken? For Harry, this one story wasn't just a memory. It was a signpost, a reminder that, no matter how hard he tried, the family he so desperately wanted his wife to blend into seemed reluctant to make space for her. Lip gloss may sound laughable to you and me, but to him, it became evidence of something he felt every day, a quiet resistance. Think of how this played out on a grander scale. After the wedding in 2018, the world was watching with hope. Here was a royal couple that seemed to promise a bridge between tradition and modernity, between Britain and the wider world, between the ancient and the new. Meghan was a biracial American actress with a voice, a story, a presence unlike anything the monarchy had ever embraced before. For a moment, it seemed as though the walls of Buckingham Palace had cracked open to let in fresh air. But cracks, as we know, can run both ways. And if this lip gloss moment seems small, consider how it foreshadowed the more visible fractures. By the end of 2019, rumors swirled of tensions between the brothers, of Meghan feeling isolated, of palace courtiers bristling at her independence. Harry and Meghan's announcement in January 2020 that they would step back from royal duties landed like a thunderclap. The world gasped, headlines screamed, and suddenly the monarchy's carefully polished image was shaken. But to Harry, perhaps it was not sudden at all. Perhaps it began with countless little moments, whispered exchanges, grimaces that told him his wife would never be truly welcomed. The symbolism is almost Shakespearean. A monarchy centuries old, unraveling not with war or revolution, but with requests for lip gloss. It forces us to wonder, are great institutions undone not by sweeping upheavals, but by the accumulation of tiny slights, of unspoken boundaries, of cultures that cannot quite merge? And yet, to dismiss this as petty would be to miss the point, because what Harry describes is deeply human. Haven't we all felt that sting, that moment when we reached out in vulnerability only to be met with hesitation? Haven't we all sensed when someone's smile didn't quite reach their eyes, when their offered help came with a pause too long? That's why the lip gloss story sticks with us. It is, in its essence, not about royalty at all. It is about us, about the frailty of relationships, the difficulty of belonging, the power of the smallest gestures to confirm or deny acceptance. Now, let's place this into its broader context. Meghan and Kate were never destined to be alike. Meghan grew up under the Californian sun, raised in a culture where sharing casualness and warmth are second nature. Kate was groomed within Britain's aristocratic expectations, navigating a family whose unwritten motto has long been never complain, never explain. Meghan walked into the palace with Hollywood instincts. Kate had trained herself for decades to embody silence and precision. Two women, both intelligent, both accomplished, but bound to clash under the crushing weight of royal protocol. Harry, in telling this story, is not just narrating a clash of lip gloss preferences. He is narrating a cultural collision, a microcosm of why his wife struggled in the palace, why he felt trapped between love and duty, why the institution itself seemed unable to adapt. And yet, what makes it haunting is how it ended, not with reconciliation, not with laughter over a small misunderstanding, but with a grimace, a lingering memory, and eventually a memoir which the wound is reopened for the world to see. So we must ask, why did Harry include this in Spare? He could have chosen grander examples, louder arguments, more dramatic confrontations. Instead, he chose lip gloss, perhaps because it was small, because it showed how even the tiniest moments mattered, how even a request so human could echo with significance when it was met with reluctance. Harry wanted the world to understand that Meghan's alienation wasn't built in a day. It was built in sighs, in pauses, in grimaces. But here lies the irony. In writing about it, Harry himself has given the moment a permanence it never had before. Had he not told us, it might have remained nothing more than a passing discomfort. Now, it is immortalized in ink, a scene replayed in documentaries, articles, and YouTube videos like this one, a story that will outlive the people who lived it. In a way, Harry has made the lip gloss eternal. And isn't that the strange power of memory? One person's awkward pause becomes another person's turning point. One grimace becomes another's symbol of rejection. Perhaps Kate herself, reading the passage, may not even recall it the way Harry did. But memory is not fact. It is feeling. And Harry's feelings about that moment were strong enough to etch themselves into history. As we step back from this scene, consider what it reveals about the monarchy itself. A family so tied to tradition that warmth can be mistaken for weakness, that sharing lip gloss can be seen as crossing boundaries. And on the other side, a woman whose very identity challenged those boundaries, whose very presence in the family demanded a rethinking of what royalty could mean in the 21st century. The story is both trivial and profound. Trivial because it is just makeup. Profound because it is about belonging, and belonging, in the end, is what Harry and Meghan never truly found inside the palace gates. Which leads us to the haunting conclusion. If lip gloss could divide them, what hope was there when the real storms arrived? When Meghan spoke of her struggles with mental health, when the couple alleged racist comments about their unborn child, when the press hounded them day after day with merciless headlines, if warmth could not be found in a borrowed tube of gloss, could it ever be found at all? And so, the lip gloss anecdote is not just a story. It is a prophecy of relationships strained, of cultures colliding, of an institution struggling to adapt. It is a reminder that history is not always written in the grand gestures, but in the smallest of moments, the ones that seem laughable until you realize they hold the entire weight of what was to come. So, the next time you hear about this story, don't think only of cosmetics. Think of what it meant. Think of the symbolism. Think of how something so ordinary became extraordinary simply because of who lived it, where it happened, and what it foreshadowed. And ask yourself this. If the royal family could stumble over lip gloss, what else might lie beneath the surface, waiting to be revealed? What other silences, what other grimaces have shaped the course of history without us ever knowing? Because in the end, history is not made of wars and treaties alone. It is made of glances, pauses, whispers, and sometimes, yes, even lip gloss. So what do you think, viewers? Was this moment a trivial misunderstanding, blown out of proportion by memory and memoir? Or was it truly the symbol of something much deeper, a sign of an unbridgeable divide? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm eager to know what you think. And if you found yourself glued to this unraveling of history's smallest, strangest symbol, don't forget to subscribe. Because here on this channel, we believe the past is not just written in stone, it's written in gloss.